Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Shaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavare Paschatya Dasatari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We're going to continue talking about our favorite topic, Yoga Maya. Hold on. And we'll begin with Kirtan. And then we'll continue reading. We ended up reading things we've already read, but we didn't talk about the same things that we already read. That we already spoke about. So we are doing somewhat of a review, which I think is great. And we're looking at different angles of the topic. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balba Girivardhari Gopijana Ballabha Girivardhari Shoranandana Brajajana Ranjana Shisaranandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vijana Vallabha Girivardhari Vijana Vallabha Girivardhari Shoranandana Vrajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol. One more time. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari, Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari, Tubhijana Vallabha Girivara Dari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dari, Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari, Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Go Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol. Go to Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. Whenever the pandemic increases, we get more people to class. So may the pandemic increase, continue to increase. Along with our Krishna consciousness. It will go up with the pandemic. So let me just bring up the document, and we'll begin reading where we left off. Rereading. We're rereading where we left off because I'm reading, somehow or other I got inspired to reread many of the things that we have already read, but it's all nectar. We can read it again. So, this is from the 8th canto, 5th chapter, text 43. All learned men say that the 5 elements, eternal time, fruitive activity, the 3 modes of material nature, and the varieties produced by these modes are all creations of Yoga Maya. The material world is therefore extremely difficult to understand, but those who are highly learned have rejected it. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller of everything, be pleased with us. So that was just there to underscore to underscore what we've already discussed, that everything is produced by this internal energy called Yoga Maya. So this next quotation is from the 8th canto, 12th chapter, text 21. In Bhagavad Gita 7.4, it is said, Daivi Yesha Guna Mayi Mama Maya Daratyaya. The external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is extremely strong. We all know that. Even without reading this verse, we know it by experience. This is, there's some verses of Bhagavad Gita, it's impossible to only have intellectual understanding, and this is one of them. We have experience of this before we were devotees. Indeed, everyone is fully captivated by her activities. Lord Shambhu Shiva was not to be captivated by the external potency, but because Lord Vishnu wanted to captivate him also, he exhibited his internal potency to act the way that his external potency acts to captivate ordinary living entities. Wow. So he can use the potency as he likes. Lord Vishnu can captivate anyone, even such a strong personality as Lord Shambhu. As you remember, this story, Lord Shiva wanted to see Krishna as a female. Probably not a good idea for men, maybe for women, but when Lord Shiva saw him as her, he went, as we say in America, bananas. That's another way of saying crazy. Anyway, it was all a Leela, because Lord Shiva is the most Dhira, and nobody can disturb him. And now he's running after a woman. So Krishna's saying, all you sages, you see what's going on, Be careful. Be careful. But this was Krishna's desire, so Lord Shiva ultimately couldn't be bewildered by Mahamaya. Mahamaya is his wife. He could only be bewildered by Yoga Maya, and Krishna wanted to bewilder him in this particular way, so Yoga Maya can do that. Of course, anything can happen by Krishna's desire, but Krishna's plan was to instruct the sages that you have to be careful in the association of a woman, because you could lose your mind in the association of a very beautiful woman and give up your sadhana. So, we told the story last time a little bit, but what was happening was Lord Shiva was running after her, and he wanted to grab her and embrace her. And so she, Mohini Murti, decided, well, I'll run where the sages live, and then the sages will see. Look what's going on. Lord Shiva's running after me. Can you believe it? Even Lord Shiva. And, So the Shastra warns us, be careful. Don't underestimate the charming power of a woman. Prabhupada said, no man should think himself liberated in the presence of a beautiful woman. In other words, no man should think that he's completely free from that attraction and he can just take it easy in the presence of a beautiful woman. He should be careful. There's another verse in Shastra. It's difficult to understand this verse, but it said that one should not be alone with his daughter or mother because he could get agitated. It's not, maybe not taken literally, practiced literally, but it's just, obviously it has happened. And a father has molested a daughter. So the warning is there, even in this unlikely situation, be careful. So that was the interesting story of Mohini Murti. But you could say at least it was Krishna that he was attracted to, ultimately. I think that prayer of Rupa Goswami, I'd like to be attracted to Krishna like a young boy and a young girl are attracted. That would be nice if it's Krishna. Anyway, that's that story. But it just shows how the Yogamaya potency works. It works as is necessary for the Leela. Okay, so now we're into the 10th canto, and shortly we will begin reading things we have not yet read, but we're still rereading for reasons that I don't know. Basically, because it has a marker when I open it up and it says read from where you left off, and it brought me to like the 3rd canto, although we had already read through the 10th canto, part of it. So I was just going with the flow because I'm from California, so that's why we're rereading. But I like rereading it, so I think I hope it doesn't bore you because we've already read this. So this is the verse. The potency of the Lord, known as Vishnu Maya, who is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will appear with Lord Krishna. This potency, acting in different capacities, captivates all the worlds, both material and spiritual. At the request of her master, she will appear with her different potencies in order to execute the work of the Lord. That's Shubhadra, Krishna's sister. She will appear as the Yogamaya potency. And then she will help Krishna in her Leelas, in his Leelas. We discussed before, Yogamaya is kind of like the producer of the movie, and Krishna's like the director. But sometimes she takes the director role as well. She, without being told by the director, she sometimes knows what to do. So it works both ways. She knows, or Krishna tells her, depending on the situation. Purport: Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shuryate Svetasvatara Upanishad 6.8, as quoted in the Madhyalila 1365 purport. In the Vedas, it is said that the potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are called by different names, such as Yogamaya, Mahamaya. Ultimately, however, the Lord's potency is one, exactly as electric potency is one, although it can both act to cool and to heat. The Lord's potency acts in both the spiritual and material worlds. In the spiritual world, the Lord's potency works as Yogamaya, and in the material world, the same potency works as Mahamaya, exactly as electricity works in both a heater and a cooler. And when we were talking about this before, I was saying that you get the energy, you come under the control of the energy that you want to be controlled by. So The material world people don't want the spiritual energy. They want the material energy. The material energy which causes them to hanker for material progress, material gratification. That's what they want. That's what they get. When you become a devotee, you don't want that anymore. So then, ideally, if your desire is sincere, you will come under the control of the Yogamaya energy, and that will help you. So, Maya, material energy, Mahamaya, helps you stay in this world and attempt to be happy here. It helps you remain illusioned to think you're the body, and that becomes your impetus for your material activities. And when you become a devotee, then you get the benefit of the Yogamaya potency, which helps you become Krishna conscious. So it's really up to us what we want. And as you know in your own life, these energies fluctuate, the modes of nature fluctuate according to our consciousness and according to our activities. But the point is, if you want Maya, Mahamaya, you'll get Mahamaya. If you want Yogamaya, you will get Yogamaya. So logically, intelligently, we would think that I want to be Krishna conscious. It's better I stay under the influence of Yogamaya, and then there are things I can do, such as my sadhana, done well, my service, and so forth, and also accompanied with the desire to become more advanced than Yogamaya. We'll have shelter of Yogamaya. And if we want to think, I am the enjoyer, okay, you want to think like that, Mahamaya will come and try to help you. But fortunately, she'll also make it possible to turn that into a reality. You might keep it in your head that you're supreme in your own domain, that you can actually be happy here. And she'll help you, but ultimately she'll frustrate you. She won't allow that to work out perfectly well. And that's her mercy. Unfortunately, most people don't get it right away. It takes many, many lives before they understand what's actually happening. You remember, I think I told you we should read this document I have. I had mentioned, I had given a class on be conscious, then be Krishna conscious, that statement by Prabhupada. And then when I studied all those statements, it was basically just being able to see reality as we see it. Because not everybody sees it as they actually see it. So to see reality as we see it, that's all it meant. That sounds kind of simplistic, but basically, see what you're seeing, see what's actually going on. So it could take unlimited lifetimes before people actually see what's going on. And most people who become devotees, when they hear from the devotees, it's not that everything they hear is the first time they thought about it. It's they've seen it in their life, and then they say, "This makes sense. I have this experience, or I have this realization." That means be conscious. You have to be somewhat conscious. So, if you want to remain in Maya, she'll keep you unconscious. That's her job. And then, sometimes you look at people and say, "How can people live this way?" Well, they have to be unconscious, or in some partial state of unconsciousness to live this way. Isn't it? Because when you become conscious, you can't live that way. Yeah. So the next is from the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, text 6. To protect the Yadus, his personal devotees, from Kamsa's attack, the personality of Godhead, Vishvatma, the supreme soul of everyone, ordered Yogamaya as follows. Purport. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. For the bhakti yogi, a human body is guaranteed in his next existence, as stated by Lord Krishna. Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Vijayate. Bhagavad Gita 6:41. Yogamaya is the spiritual potency of the Lord. Out of affection for his devotees, the Lord always stays in spiritual touch with them, although otherwise his Maya potency is so strong that she bewilders even exalted demigods like Brahma. Therefore, the Lord's potency is called Yoga Maya. Since the Lord is Vishvatma, he immediately ordered Yoga Maya to give protection to Devaki. So this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness, that we're all sitting in our homes in different parts of the world. And as soon as we desire to be Krishna conscious, this internal potency, it kicks in. We get realization. Krishna reveals but what we need to know to proceed with our devotional service, and which just demonstrates that Krishna knows all of us. He knows what we need. He knows what we're thinking. He's everywhere, in every heart and every atom. It's you could say a mystical process, but it demonstrates the reality of Krishna consciousness, that Krishna is aware of us. I mean, it's so obvious, isn't it? That when you're doing well in your sadhana, in your service, you feel differently. You feel the presence of the spiritual energy surrounding you. When you go to the Dham, when you're in good association, when you're in kirtan, and when you're not in those situations, and you allow yourself to be affected by your environment, material environment, you feel the difference. It's almost like you're a different person. That's proof of the presence of these energies that we're talking about. We have realization of what we're talking about here. Yes. So, Yoga, as Prabhupada's saying here, it's a nice statement. I'll read this again. Yogamaya is the spiritual potency of the Lord. Out of affection for his devotees, the Lord always stays in spiritual touch with them. So Yogamaya is the energy which protects and purifies and uplifts the devotee. And so Prabhupada's saying, out of affection for the devotee, this is the energy they get. You could say out of affection for the non-devotees, they get Mahamaya because that's what they want. But specifically, for the devotees, we get the blessing of coming under the influence of Yoga Maya, because that helps us. So it's Krishna's affection. Whenever you get a realization, whenever you get an inspiration, just remember that's Krishna's mercy, Krishna's affection on you. Because without his mercy, we couldn't have any realization. We would only, without his mercy, our only realization would be, I am the enjoyer and controller. And our only inspiration would be to enjoy and control. That's a fact. So when we feel that I am a servant of Krishna and my inspiration is to do service, that's his mercy on us. It's coming from that internal potency. So we should appreciate, always appreciate. Every realization we get, we should always appreciate. Because if we're in Maya, we won't get those realizations. So whatever realization we get, we should appreciate. Oh, this is a gift by Krishna. He's so merciful. He's giving me realization how to progress. He's giving me realization how to understand bhakti. He's giving me inspiration. I'm grateful. This is a gift bestowed upon me because I have some desire to progress in spiritual life. So without that, without realization, we'll just have realization of the glories of Maya, and then we'll be inspired materially. And because we're not inspired materially, it's proof that we have Krishna's mercy. He's giving us realization to see through that illusion. Otherwise, without his mercy, nobody can see through the illusion, even intelligent people. They obviously can see something that's going on, but to come to the ultimate siddhanta, that's extremely rare. Most people don't go that far. Okay, so now we're going to read from the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, text 7. The Lord ordered Yogamaya, O my potency, who are worshipable for the entire world, and whose nature is to bestow good fortune upon all living entities. Go to Braja, where there live many cowherd men and their wives. In that very beautiful land where many cows reside, Rohini, the wife of Vasudeva, is living at the home of Nanda Maharaj. Other wives of Vasudeva are also living there, incognito, because of fear of Kamsa. Please go there. Okay. She took birth from Jasoda. Kamsa came and picked her up and brought her back to Devaki. Kamsa came to see the child that was supposed to kill him. He tried to kill her, and she slipped out and said, "Sorry, you're too late. The person who's going to kill you, he's somewhere else right now. And don't mess with me or I'll chop your head off." Basically, that would be the modern version of that scene. But she exhibited herself as Durga. So that was a bit of a nightmare for him. Purport: Nanda Gokul, the resident of King Nanda, was itself very beautiful, and when Yogamaya was ordered to go there and encourage the devotees with fearlessness, it became even more beautiful and safe. Because Yogamaya had the ability to create such an atmosphere, the Lord ordered her to go to Nanda Gokul. So, this is not referring to her birth. It's referring to after she was born. Go there, because that's where she can arrange, that's where she is meant to be, to arrange the Leelas of Krishna, to enhance rasa, enhance love between Krishna and his devotees. That's her job, her real job. Essential duty is to arrange the pastimes of Krishna in a way that love increases, rasa increases. Now, this next part. Maybe I wasn't wrong. Okay. No, I guess I was right the first time. Anyway, both things are correct, but the reference here now is who's being maybe these verses being spoken to Vasudeva. Within the womb of Devaki is my partial plenary expansion known as Sankarshan, or Sesha. That's Balaram. Without difficulty, transfer him to the womb of Rohini. We discussed this. This was a tough job. The first plenary expansion of Krishna's Baladev, known as Sesha, the Sesha incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, supports the entire universe. And the eternal mother of this incarnation is Mother Rohini. Because I'm going into the womb of Devaki, the Lord told Yogamaya. Oh, he's talking to Yogamaya. So this is the birth time. The Sesha incarnation has already gone there and made suitable arrangements so that I may live there. Now he should enter the room of Rohini. So he's telling Yogamaya to take Balaram out of the womb of Devaki and put him in the womb of Rohini. And she's wondering, how am I going to do that? I've never done that before. This is an interesting job. You ever have to do something you've never done before? It seems impossible. Symbolically, Mother Devaki's constant fear of Kamsa was purifying her. A pure devotee should always fear material association, and in this way, all the asuras of material association will be killed, as the Sadgarbhasuras were killed by Kamsa. So, fear is a condition of material existence. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending, or fearing, defending or fearing. But here, fear is also a symptom of love. Because fear for what? Fear for Krishna. And how is that fear manifest? The fear that I will be separated from Krishna due to material energy. or Prabhupada translates it also, fear that our Krishna conscious movement will not be successful. So that's also a transcendental fear. Let's read that again. A pure devotee should always fear material association. And in this way, all the asuras of material association will be killed, as the Sadgarbha asuras were killed by Kamsa. These were the children of Devaki who were, anyway, it's explained here. But this is a good point. We should always fear material association. You can take that in two ways. Always understand the contaminating potency of material environments, or environments devoid of bhakti. And we understand them and we fear them, understanding how much we can be affected by them. So that's important. And it goes back to that story with Mohini Murti. Don't take for granted the power of Maya. I think sometimes we take for granted the power of Maya because by the grace of Prabhupada, we are given a process which protects us from material energy. And so because we're doing the process, we're protected. But sometimes a devotee may be foolish and underestimate the power of Maya and thinking, well, Maya's not very strong. I'm doing fine. Well, you're doing fine because you're following the process. You're keeping yourself in good association and so forth. That's why you're doing fine. But the illusion is, well, I'm doing fine. I must be strong. We're not strong, but we can be strong in the right environment. But when we're strong because we're in the right environment, sometimes we think, oh, I'm strong. I will be strong in any environment. And Prabhupada's saying, no, you should be afraid of environments which are not Krishna conscious. You should be afraid of material association because it's contaminating. It is said that from the mind, Marichi appears. In other words, Marichi is an incarnation of the mind. Marichi has 6 sons, so these reside in the mind. Kama, lust, krodha, anger, lobha, greed, moha, illusion, madha, madness, and matsara, envy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in pure devotional service. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Bhaktir evainam darshayati. Only bhakti can bring one in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared from the womb of Devaki, and therefore Devaki symbolically represents bhakti, and Kamsa symbolically represents material fear. When a pure devotee always fears material association, his real position of bhakti is manifested. And he naturally becomes uninterested in material enjoyment. When the 6 sons of Marichi are killed by such fear, and one is freed from material contamination, within the womb of bhakti, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears. Let's read that again. When a pure devotee always fears material association, his real position of bhakti is manifested. And he naturally becomes uninterested in material enjoyment. So again, or Prabhupada's underscoring this point, that this is not just for neophyte devotees. A pure devotee fears material association. Material association is unattractive, obviously, for a pure devotee. At the same time, he understands the contamination of it, even a pure devotee, that we have to keep ourselves in, you can say, in a at least sattvic or if not transcendental position, environment as far as possible. And then bhakti will appear. Thus, the 7th pregnancy of Devaki signifies the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After the 6 sons, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, and Matsarya are killed, the Sesha incarnation creates a suitable situation for the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, When one awakens his natural Krishna consciousness, the Lord appears. This is the explanation given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So we all want Krishna to appear in our heart. So what this verse is saying is that these four things must be eliminated. Kama, lust; krodha, anger; lobha, greed; moha, illusion; I am the body; mada, madness for material enjoyment; matsara, envy. When these are eliminated, then Krishna says, okay, now I can come. If you're calling Krishna to come in your heart, Krishna will tell you, yeah, get rid of these things. They're taking up space. I can't hang out with them. They make everything dirty. So that's the that's the idea. And the more these things are eliminated from our life, the more we'll feel Krishna's presence. So I'm going to see if there are any questions or comments so far. Mm-hmm. Welcome to all of you. Just bear with me. I don't want to miss anything. So, Christy says, I studied that a female disciple should not be alone in the room with her spiritual master or serve him personally if she is not married. Is that correct? Definitely shouldn't be alone, but you shouldn't be alone with any man. And if you're, it's up to the guru, whether you can serve him personally. Many gurus will not want to be served personally by a woman, especially sannyasis. But often they're cooking. That's personal service. Prabhupada had females cooking for him. So it will depend on the situation and depend on the guru. Women washed his clothes, cleaned his rooms. So it depends what you mean by personal. He wouldn't want to travel alone with a woman, generally. Sometimes gurus will travel with a married couple. Yeah. But this principle, being alone with a man, it should be followed by everybody. And Prabhupada tells that story. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had a disciple. And the disciple was young enough to be his granddaughter, and she wanted to speak with him privately, and he wouldn't do it. One time Prabhupada was talking to his sister, and his servant walked out of the room, and he said, come back. And then he said, you should never leave me alone with a woman. But then when Prabhupada gave Gayatri, he gave it alone, as far as I know, to the women. But generally for us, we try to avoid being alone as far as possible. And yeah. Especially serious, when you're a sannyasi, then you have to be very strict and careful. Rob says, thank you for reminding this ignorant fool how important Krishna is, bestowing his mercy upon us. Without Krishna's mercy, none of us would be here. And the fact that we're here is a sign that we have his mercy, at least to some degree. Right? Krishna Karshani says, you've been talking about attraction to opposite sex. Should a devotee look for a wife or a husband they feel attraction? No, you should find someone you're not at all attracted to and marry them. That way you'll never be attached. Is the sexual attraction necessary in marriage? or better find a partner who's not sexually attractive for us? Sorry, it's a question, a bit out of topic, but I think important. Well, you want to know the real answer to this question? The real answer to this question is it doesn't matter what I say, because you will find the person, you will find that you feel something for, you are attracted to in some way. So, I mean, the right answer is you should find the person who will help you become Krishna conscious. That's the person you want to marry, is the person who you feel will help you become Krishna conscious, not the person you feel will give you the greatest sense gratification. But then devotees will say, but if I have no attraction to my husband and wife, then I'll become attracted to other women, or men. And unfortunately, that's true for many people. So if that's the case of the individual, like, well, if I'm not, very physically attracted to my wife, I'll become physically attracted to another woman. Yeah, then you should marry a woman you're very physically attracted to. And obviously, if there's no physical attraction, probably you wouldn't want to marry. So, I can tell you what I feel personally. I feel if a woman or a man is so handsome or so beautiful that when you look at them, all you can think about is everything other than Krishna, why would you want to marry them? Because why would you want to be with someone who doesn't remind you of Krishna? There's beauty, there's physical beauty, but that physical beauty is not going to make you forget Krishna. But there's a kind of beauty that will bewilder your mind into wanting to enjoy that person. And you want to marry someone who inspires you in service. You don't want to marry someone who causes you to forget Krishna. So, for example, if a man sees a beautiful woman, he might think, oh, she's so beautiful, I would love to marry her. Or I'd love to have a wife that beautiful. But you know what Prabhupada's father told him? You know that story. Prabhupada didn't like his wife. I guess it was an arranged marriage. He didn't really like her that much for whatever reason. And he wanted to get a second wife. That was legal. And his father said, well, it's good you don't like your wife. You won't get attached. He says, better, don't get married again. And Prabhupada actually appreciated that. So I'm not saying you should all marry someone you don't like. Do the charts, and that person who you're most incompatible with, that's the one you should marry, because then you'll never get attached. I'm not saying that. But if one is so physically bewildered by the beauty of his husband or wife, that would prove to be an impediment. This is why, you want to be with someone who reminds you of Krishna, right? So you don't want to be with someone who every time you look at them, you just think, oh, I want to enjoy with you. So, having said that, I don't think it's going to deter anyone. And some men they're out there to find the most beautiful woman that exists in ISKCON and marry her. What can I say? But I've said before, I think one of the big problems is that people get married for the wrong reason. And when you get married for the wrong reason, then you have the wrong expectations. And when those expectations are not met, then you think about divorce. But if you get married for the right reason, which is the only reason to get married, is so it helps you become Krishna conscious. Otherwise, why would you do anything if it doesn't help you become Krishna conscious? You wouldn't. So why would marriage be any different? So that's the consideration. Will this union helped me become Krishna conscious. And so you might say, so a man might say, well, yeah, if she's not beautiful, I'm just, I like beautiful women. What can I do? I'm a fallen, conditioned soul. Okay, so I need to marry a beautiful woman. Or I need a husband who's like super strong and intelligent and successful. And it's just what I need. If I don't, I'll be attracted to men who are like that. Okay, so you know that. That's okay. But the point is, if you know that and you analyze it, that this will be helpful for my Krishna consciousness, because then I won't look at other men or women, and I'm not going to marry a woman who's so beautiful that I'm just going to be thinking about sex. No, then I think that's reasonable. Just being practical, but the ultimate, of course, criterion is how will this relationship help us become Krishna conscious. So when you enter the relationship that way, and then the expectations will be realistic. I made a joke the other day. We were giving a class on Grihastha life, and I said, the problem is too many romance novels and too many Bollywood films. And then you get the whole wrong idea of what a relationship between a man and a woman's all about. And then you have all these romantic expectations. And that's not what it's for. At least that may be part of it, but that's not the main thing. So, did that answer your question? Okay, let's go back. Okay. All right. Krishna Karshani says, I notice that I tend to lose my realizations. Is there any way to keep the realizations deep in our hearts? Yeah, write them down. You know why you lose them? It's because, well, it's not always true, but to some degree, the realizations are coming when you're in a particular environment. And that environment could mean, well, last week my rounds were all chanted early in the morning, and they were really good rounds. Or last week I was going to Mangalartik every day. Or last week I was reading Bhagavatam, going to Mangalartik, chanting really good rounds, and so-and-so visited me, getting really good association. So now I'm having all these realizations. And now, next week, that person goes, my rounds are horrible, I don't read, and I'm not going to the temple. And so those realizations, the realization that you got in a certain state of consciousness, you lose. Which is why Krishna created paper and a pen, so you could remember them. Yeah. And sometimes it's just the effects of the modes of nature, that you're in a certain consciousness and you're getting certain realizations, or you're reading certain things, or you've been thinking about certain things that you're not thinking about a month later. But writing realizations is good. I mean, I can say for sure, if I look at all my daily videos, there's a certain percentage of them that I spoke, which were kind of spontaneous realizations that I just, I'm thinking, okay, we need to make some videos. And what have I been thinking about this week? Or what did I talk about in class today? And then I'll just speak it, and I can guarantee you some of those I completely forgot. It was just the environment, it was the class, it was something I was working on, someone I was talking to, something I was thinking about, something I was reading, and then I had the realization because of all that. So it's natural that in those circumstances you'll get certain realizations and you'll forget them. We were told, part of the reason this is happening, we were told right in the beginning when we joined, that when we become self-realized, all the instructions will be remembered. So there is this fluctuation of the modes of nature that is affecting us. So even in the best scenario, you may forget some realizations because they're just circumstantial. So it's good to write them down. And you'll see, if you're doing really well in Krishna consciousness and you write down your realizations and you read them like a year later, you may even question those were your realizations. You may not remember them. As you progress more, those realizations will become more permanent part of your existence. That's what we want, right? That will require more purification, more elevation, so that you're always seeing things that way. Sometimes, like we're saying, these realizations are gifts. Krishna just gives them to you. And, you didn't pay for them. You didn't pay so much for them. And now you'll have to pay a little more to keep them. So it could be many reasons like that. Manish has a question. On the point made on seeing everything as Krishna's mercy is wonderful with so many layers. Time's very hard to understand, yes, because we have been hoping for a different result, yes. Equally, when things are good, don't give it so much thought. How can I practically always see everything as Krishna's mercy? Only when you understand that once you become a devotee and you try your best to be Krishna conscious, that everything, only when you understand that in that state, Krishna will only do things which are in your best interest. Will you be able to see that everything is Krishna's mercy? If you have any doubt that what he's doing is in your best interest, then how could you see everything as his mercy? Because then you'll think, I didn't deserve this. He doesn't love me. Why would he do this? And you may not understand in every situation how it's Krishna's mercy. But if you understand as a overarching principle that if I give my life to Krishna, that Krishna's affection will manifest in so many ways, but it's all affection. Then when something happens that doesn't seem like affection, I will think, okay, I have to try to understand how this is affection. Because I know it's affection, I'm convinced it's affection, so let me see how this is actually good, how it's helpful, what it's meant to teach me, or where it's meant to push me, or how it's meant to humble me. Something will come of it. Have you ever been really sick to the point where you start thinking that having taken birth in a body was a really bad idea? I always feel like that at the dentist, actually, especially when they're doing something like pulling your tooth or a root canal. I don't know if you have that experience. I get that experience at the dentist, and occasionally I've got that experience in India when I was so sick that I just wanted to die. It was so hard. The headache was so painful. So when there's a lot of pain in the body, sometimes we think, at least I think, this was really, really a bad idea to take a body. It was a bad mistake. I made a bad choice. And I would say that most of us on a day-to-day basis are not thinking like that. But when we're in pain, we often think that way. Oh, the body's so painful. Why did I choose to take a body which could produce so much pain? But then we're becoming smart. We're becoming detached. We're seeing things for what they are. So that's good. So sometimes it may take a little pain or discomfort to have some, I don't know if we call it realization, but to have some cognition of reality. So if I think everything is Krishna's mercy because he is always loving and protecting me and only has my best interest, then when there are reverses, I won't think this is bad. I will automatically think, how is this good? Because a loving Father has arranged this, so it must be good. And maybe it's not apparent, but I will look, I will think, I will contemplate. So that way your whole paradigm is Krishna's loving. And so everything has to be if it's coming from someone who loves you, it must be loving, even when it isn't apparently loving. That's the idea. That's how you see it. Now, Para Ananda says, Chanaka Pandit said, a beautiful wife is like an enemy. You know why he said that? He said a beautiful wife is an enemy because all the other men in the universe will be attracted to her. Not all, but many men will be attracted to her. So now you're married a woman who's attracting the attention of all these men. Is that the kind of woman you want to marry? And all these men are coming up to her and saying, "You're so beautiful." And those men are more handsome than you. Is that what you want? Radhapriya says, maybe a devotee can find a couple who is completely the opposite of him or her. And then the devotee is going to pray to Krishna every day for patience. Well, you don't have to look, because you will naturally, whoever you marry will be different from you. Number one, they're different sex. That's enough difference to require some patience. The best advice that I can give any of you is don't try to control your spouse, and whatever they do, just accept that's what they do. And, sometimes make jokes out of it. This is the way they are. Give them a special name. Just have fun with it, because unless we can accept our spouse the way they are, we'll just fight. Why aren't you like this? You're always like that. And that's not Krishna consciousness, because Krishna consciousness means to be accepting of the reality as it is. This is how this person is. You married them, so you made the choice. No one had a gun in your head saying you have to marry them. So then accept them, and definitely you will need patience, even if you're not completely opposite. So now Ananda wants to know, because he's so handsome, he wants to know, what about a woman having a handsome husband? Is she the enemy? Is he the enemy for her? Could be. If all the women are all around him, then she will be an enemy. He will be. Every man wants a woman who is chaste. Every woman wants a man who's chaste. Siddha Yogini says, I realize that certain realizations, even written on paper, cannot bring back the whole experience. Came just like letters on paper. That's so amazing. And I think the answer is, we have to try to maintain that high level of Krishna consciousness that we had when we got the realization, right? Isn't it? I don't think there's any way around it. I had that experience. I read my realizations from japa retreats, but the environment was different. But still, it's inspiring to know that I had the realization, isn't it? That it came to me. It's there. Or it's kind of like reading a book, like written by somebody else. Anyway, I think this discussion, at least for me, it inspires me to stay in a good state of Krishna consciousness where I can get realization. I think that's maybe where this conversation is coming to. Let us stay in an optimal state of Krishna consciousness, because in that optimal state, that's when we'll get the most realization. And realizations are necessary, right? Without realization, where do we go? Then she says, but then when I was writing that realization, it was overwhelming experience. Yeah, so better go back to Mayapur and get that realization again. Mm. Yeah. If you need some realization, go to the dentist. You'll get lots of realization you'll get the realization that you shouldn't have taken a body. Yeah. Yeah, the best answer to this discussion is just stay in the state where realization comes as much as possible. So Kaylee says, this is in reference to the discussion of taking a wife or husband whom is physically attractive and the idea that a beautiful wife or husband is like an enemy. With respect, it seems to me that is blaming other people for our inability to control. No, you're not blaming them. You're just making an observation. Sexual desire is certainly powerful, but controlling that desire is ultimately my responsibility. That's totally true. But our partners are not the enemy. What Chanakya Pandit meant was your partner is the enemy because everyone else is going to be attracted to your partner. So he didn't mean it for you personally. But if you're weak, if you have a partner, it's not their fault they're beautiful, and it's not their fault you're enamored by them. But if that's the reason you're getting married and that's what you want to enjoy, you're going to have trouble, for sure, being Krishna conscious, because you made a choice based on something entirely physical or predominantly physical. And what happens 10 years later when they don't look like they do now? Then what do you do? That whole thing. But the enemy is because other people are going to be after your husband or wife. Therefore, because they're so beautiful, everybody wants to be with them. Then you're going to have a problem. That's what it meant. But your point's well taken. It's not anyone's fault except ours that we're attracted. But sometimes we have to deal with the reality of our attraction, and we have to adjust. You don't say, this woman, this man would make a good wife or husband, but I would be very bewildered by them. I would be, it wouldn't help me. I would be too much attracted to them. It's not their fault, it's my fault, but it's a reality. So that's a consideration. Then we have this other amazing reality that in traditional marriages, the couple did not see one another until they were married. That's amazing. So that was a whole different paradigm of marriage, right? Could you imagine if you didn't like the way they looked? Now what do you do? But that wasn't their consideration. You're welcome, Manish. Manish Mango. Siddha Yogini asks how to recognize that it's Krishna's arrangement or situation we should change. Sometimes it's obvious, and because you've already been thinking about it, and something happens, and you say, oh, it's time to change. You already know you should change, and you can see Krishna's making the arrangement to change. And sometimes you won't know until you discuss it with other devotees. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to know what's best without discussing with devotees. Obviously you can do practical things like look at pros and cons. Try to understand the desire of Prabhupada, your spiritual master, where your life's going, what your goals are, your values, and evaluate all these things. But sometimes you really need to discuss. I remember one of our godbrothers was thinking of going back to university to do something in academics to influence the academic community, or not influence them, but say to have to introduce the Vaishnava understanding of religion. Because if we don't do it, and then other scholars will do it who are not devotees, and they may not be able to represent Vaishnavism properly. So he was thinking about it, but he was a guru and a sannyasi, so it was not typical. And one of his godbrothers was encouraging him to do it and explaining why this is important, and that it would set a good example for others who want to go into the academic world. Because at that time in ISKCON, the academic world was not looked on so favorably, especially not favorable for someone who was a GBC and a guru and a sannyasi. It seems like maybe a service for other younger people. But anyway, this sannyasi godbrother was encouraging him. And I was with him a little bit at this time. And I was with another godbrother, and he was asking us what we think. And he was telling us that he's discussing this with many, many devotees, because he wasn't sure. Well, he had become sure, but he wanted to make sure this was really what Prabhupada wanted. So after he made the decision, I will do this, he was still discussing it. He really wanted to be sure, and that's how he became sure, by discussing it. So I think that is a very good position to take. Because sometimes we don't know. And I would also suggest that don't just talk to one person. Talk to a few people. And when you talk to a few people, one of two things will happen. Everyone will say the same thing. So it starts to become obvious. Or they will say different things, and then it gives you a variety of things to consider to make the decision. So Radhapriya liked the advice about trying to control your partner, but admits that it's hard sometimes. Yeah, it's kind of hard all the time. But especially for those of us who really need to control everyone and everything, it's really hard. If you want to control everything and you see, probably don't get married, because you'll make your partner completely miserable, and your kids even more miserable. So, and they'll become crazy when they become teenagers, because teenagers do not like to be controlled by their parents. So do everyone a favor and, let them be the way they are. And if they want to change, they'll come up to you and say, Radhapriya, can you help me change? Just tell me what I should do. But until then, maybe not. You can teach people how to become Krishna conscious. They'll want to learn. You can help them, but ultimately you can't control them. Madiha says, pain is weakness leaving the body, some people say. Now, has anything to do with karmic lessons, tests we need to deal with? I'm not clear on the question. Pain is weakness leaving the body. So, pain is a weakness that's leaving the body. Some people say that. Has anything to do with karmic lessons? Yeah, everything has something to do with karmic lessons. But what those lessons are, you'll have to figure out. Everything is a lesson. Even the happiness is a lesson. Not just pain. You try to understand. Everything we go through in life can teach us something. Every person, every situation, if you have the ability to understand what you're meant to learn, and then you can say, well, how do I learn what I'm supposed to learn? that's for you to reflect on. What is this teaching me? I think in life there are many lessons that we don't notice or we don't want to notice. So that's what makes it difficult to learn. But when we suffer, we're getting rid of bad karma. So that's a lesson. I've done something in the past, and now I'm suffering, emotionally or physically. Maybe if I'm experiencing physical pain, it's because of physical pain I had given to someone else. Maybe if I'm suffering emotional pain, it's because of emotional pain that I caused to another person. This is how we look at it. Krishna Karshani says, how to know that painful experience we're dealing with is Krishna's mercy? Maybe we created the pain we're experiencing and it has nothing to do with Krishna's mercy. Just to feel better, we say it's Krishna's mercy. Well, you could say if you do something stupid, then don't blame it on Krishna. But you could still say, I am getting a reaction for something stupid that I did. And so that's Krishna's mercy. Because if I didn't get a reaction, I would do it again. So you could see it that way. I mean, okay, it's my stupidity that I did it. But then you can say, how is that Krishna's mercy? Well, if I learned something from it, then it's Krishna's mercy. Right? Correct? It doesn't happen all the time. We do something stupid, and then at the end we say, it was really bad, but it was really Krishna's mercy because I really learned a lesson that I just shouldn't do that anymore. And I really suffered because I did it, and it was a mistake, and I do it all the time, and I really learned that I shouldn't do it. And this is Krishna's mercy that finally I got this reaction for doing it. So like that. Sometimes it's like that, right? We've all experienced that, no? So if you're looking for Krishna's mercy, you'll find it even when you make mistakes. Mm-hmm. I have this very profound saying. You want to hear it? It's very deep. When you do something stupid, you get a stupid result. That's my mantra when I hammer a nail and I miss the nail and hit my thumb instead. I go, when you do something stupid, you get a stupid result. That's the lesson I learned. It's Krishna's mercy. I learned that lesson. I'm never going to hammer my thumb again. I'm going to hit the nail and keep my thumb. Be very careful. But have you ever done something stupid and realized, you look at it and go, why did I do that? That was stupid. And what was the result of doing something stupid? A bad result comes. And so even doing something stupid, we can learn. You do something stupid, you're going to get a bad result. Of course you are. But sometimes it's just a realization on the spot. Krishna's mercy. I'm not going to do that again. Or maybe I will stop doing stupid things altogether. That would be good. Rob says, I had the thought recently, when I drank scalding hot water and burnt my mouth, the pain was excruciating. Oh, what a fool. Yeah. There it is. Proven. Rob has proven it's true. When you do something stupid, you get a stupid result. Yeah. Happens. It just happens to the best of us. Yeah. And by Krishna's mercy, Rob will never drink scalding hot water for the rest of his life, I hope. At least he'll put his little finger in and he'll touch it before he puts it in his mouth. Right? So, Krishna's mercy. Now, by that little pain, you'll never suffer again. So, Siddha Yogini says, my question was more genuine nature, not specific man-woman relationship. Just to be clear, when my husband listens to your lecture, and he doesn't think something wrong. Thank you for your answer. Now I have to go back to your question because I forgot what it was. Or you can remind me, because I forgot the context of the question. Was it you? First question you asked, second question? If I go back, there's a second. Your question was about realization, no? Siddha Yogini, can you explain it more? Because I thought your question was about realization. So I'm lost somehow or other. Your question was about genuine nature, not man-woman relationship. Krishna's arrangement. Keep going. I don't remember. Krishna's arrangement that you... I still don't know. I don't understand the part about your husband listens to your lecture. He doesn't think something's wrong. I'm lost. You'll have to explain more. I don't know why I'm lost, but I am. So, Krishna's arrangement, genuine nature, change of situation. I'm lost. Can you explain a little more? And while you're explaining, we'll read one more thing. Oh, okay. You got your answer. Okay. I answered without understanding it. Wow. Okay. Or it was answered before. Yeah. Okay. How to recognize that it's Krishna's arrangement or situation we should change. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Yeah, the answer is sometimes it's not obvious it's Krishna's arrangement. Like Krishna Karshani is saying, there's this distinguishing between, was this Krishna's arrangement or did I just do something stupid? Because if I do something stupid or wrong, then I can't say that's Krishna's arrangement. I have to say that's my foolishness. So sometimes we have to be smart enough to know that we did something wrong and not blame it on Krishna. Have you ever seen that situation where, like, someone is complaining about how people are dealing with them, but the fact is those people are just reacting to how that person dealt with them, but they don't understand that. So they're blaming the people for how they're acting, but in fact, they caused the problem. So sometimes we think, oh, it's Krishna's arrangement that everything went wrong. No, you did everything wrong. That's why it went wrong. So sometimes we have to see that. That's one point we didn't discuss enough. But sometimes it's not Krishna's arrangement, it's just we did something wrong. I was going to say, right? We did something wrong, right? Right. No, wrong. Right? Yeah, right. It's wrong, right? Right. You're wrong. Wrong is right. Yeah. So that's important to distinguish. Because as Prabhupada said, don't blame your foolishness or don't blame your stupidity on Krishna. Don't blame your Maya on Krishna. And I think sometimes devotees blame their karma or they think it's Krishna's arrangement, when in fact they just did the wrong thing and there's a bad reaction. So that definitely needs to be noticed. And like we said, anytime you're unclear, discuss. Talk to other devotees. And get some clarity. But this one point should be. This one point is misunderstood sometimes. As devotees, we tend to see everything through karma. So if something's bad, we just say, well, I just have bad karma, or I have bad relationship karma. That could be true, but the point is, if you have bad relationships, you may want to look at how you're dealing with people. You think, no, maybe I'm doing something that's causing people to not act well towards me. It's possible. It's possible you're not doing anything wrong, and you do have some relationship karma. You just end up with the wrong people. But it's generally not entirely one way or the other. So now Parananda wants to know, Krishna is the cause of all causes, and how to connect everything we're talking about. Being the cause of all causes doesn't mean that he wants bad things to happen. It just means he allows them. So not the cause. He's not the cause. He's not the direct cause of all the problems in this world, but he's the indirect cause in the sense that he created this world and he gave us the freedom to mess it up. So, but he's not condoning our actions when they go against what he would want us to do, but he's allowing us to do them. So he's the cause of all causes, and he's giving us independence so we can do the wrong thing. We can do stupid things. He's letting us do stupid things and teaching us how to do things correctly, and we can ignore him. But he's not the cause of us ignoring him. He's the indirect cause. He's giving us the freedom to do that. Is that okay? All right, time's up, everyone. And now, the conclusion of today's class is, be in Krishna consciousness, get lots of realization, let the Yogamaya potency control your life. Okay? That's a conclusion. Put it into practice. Whatever we learn in class, put it into practice. If you don't put it into practice, that's another answer to your question. I heard this thing. Siddha Yogini, I heard this, I don't know who said it. Maybe it was an explanation of the Vedic paradigm of knowledge. First you understand, you assimilate, then you practice. He said, when you practice it, that's when the realization stays, because now you're living it. So I think that's a good point. Because if you're actually doing it, that's the culmination of the realization, isn't it? So you want to remember something, then if you can incorporate that into your life so it becomes something that becomes part of your lifestyle, then you're living that realization, and once you're living it, you don't forget it. It's beyond intellect. It's part of your system, part of your life. So that's how realizations will stay with us. So maybe some of those realizations that we lose, it's because we never put them into practice, and so they go away. Of course, some realizations are more intellectual, philosophical, not practical. But anyway, that offers a little something to the conversation. Okay. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We're going to go. Difference between Krishna's will and Krishna's sanction. Exactly. We have the last statement by Marco. Acting stupidly is entirely our skill. Still acting stupidly despite the reactions we get confirms that we are undoubtedly stupid. Krishna always arranges something to make us understand our stupidity, but we don't always see it. When we notice it, when we notice it, we can see it and say that it is Krishna's mercy, but in reality, Krishna always helps us. He's always within us. Yeah, as we know, it's easy for other people to see our foolishness, not so always easy for us to see it. Okay, so ask somebody, excuse me, Prabhu, you think I'm a fool? Just tell me the truth. You think I'm a fool? Do I do stupid things? Well, since you asked, yeah, I actually have a list here, of the 108 things I've seen you do in the last 3 hours. Oh, you need a friend like that, who'll be honest. Okay, Hare Krishna to all of you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.